Girl approaches a stranger at the airport and tells him, "I remember you." His response changed everything forever. "Welcome to the channel. Enjoy the video. Give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment, and share." Emily Foster hurried through the bustling Logan International Airport, her 8-year-old daughter Sophia's small hand clasped tightly in hers. The cacophony of announcements, rolling suitcases, and chattering travelers filled the air. Emily's eyes darted nervously from gate to gate, searching for their flight number. "Mom, slow down," Sophia complained, her little legs struggling to keep up with her mother's brisk pace. Emily glanced down at her daughter, forcing a reassuring smile. "Sorry, sweetie, we just can't be late for this flight. It's very important." As they rounded a corner, Emily's shoulder collided with a man in a crisp business suit. "I'm so sorry," she muttered, barely looking up as she continued her determined march through the terminal. "No problem at all," the man replied, his deep voice tinged with a hint of amusement. Something in his tone made Emily pause. She turned, intending to offer a more sincere apology, when suddenly Sophia broke free from her grasp. "I know you!" Sophia exclaimed, pointing at the man with wide-eyed recognition. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She quickly scanned the stranger's face, certain she had never seen him before. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But there was something else, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. The man's smile faltered for a moment as he looked from Sophia to Emily. "I'm sorry, but I don't think we've met before," he said, his voice hesitant. Emily placed her hands on Sophia's shoulders, ready to apologize for her daughter's outburst. But before she could speak, Sophia piped up again. "Yes, we have. You're the man from my dreams. You sing to me." A chill ran down Emily's spine. Sophia had been having vivid dreams lately, dreams that left her both excited and unsettled. But this was something else entirely. The stranger's face paled, and he took a small step back. I think you must have me confused with someone else, little one," he stammered. Emily tightened her grip on Sophia's shoulders. "I'm so sorry, sir. She has quite an imagination." She leaned down to whisper in her daughter's ear. "Sophia, that's not polite. You shouldn't say things like that to strangers." But Sophia was undeterred. "Mom, it's true. He sings the lullaby, the one about the moon and the stars." The man's eyes widened, and he stumbled back as if he'd been struck. How do you know that song?" he whispered. Emily's head was spinning. How could this man know about a song from Sophia's dreams? It didn't make any sense. She opened her mouth to demand an explanation. But at that moment, a final boarding call for their flight blared over the loudspeaker. "We have to go," Emily said, her voice shaky. She grabbed Sophia's hand and started to turn away. "Wait," the man called out. "Please, I need to talk to you. My name is Daniel Reeves. Here's my card. Call me when you get back. It's important." Emily hesitated for a moment before taking the card. Without another word, she hurried away, practically dragging Sophia behind her. As they settled into their seats on the plane, Emily's mind was racing. Who was this Daniel Reeves? And how did he know a song from her daughter's dreams? She looked at Sophia, who was happily buckling her seatbelt, seemingly unaware of the strange encounter's impact. "Sophia, honey," Emily began cautiously, "can you tell me more about the man in your dreams, the one who sings to you?" Sophia's face lit up. "Oh, Mom, he's so nice. He has a kind face, just like that man at the airport. And he always sings me the same song about the moon watching over me and the stars keeping me safe." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had never heard Sophia mention this song before. "And you've never met this man outside of your dreams?" Sophia shook her head. "Nope. Well, not until today." She grinned, clearly pleased with herself. As the plane took off, Emily stared out the window, her mind a whirlwind of questions. She thought back to the accident she'd had when she was pregnant with Sophia. The doctors had told her she might experience some memory loss, but she had always assumed it was minor. Now she wasn't so sure. The flight to Chicago seemed to stretch on forever. Emily tried to focus on grading papers. She had a stack of essays from her high school English class that needed attention, but her mind kept drifting back to the encounter at the airport. When they finally landed and made their way to Aunt Martha's house, Emily was exhausted. She managed to get Sophia settled in for the night before collapsing onto the guest room bed. As she drifted off to sleep, snippets of a half-remembered melody played at the edges of her consciousness. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of Sophia's laughter drifting up from the kitchen. She made her way downstairs, where she found her daughter helping Aunt Martha make pancakes. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Aunt Martha said with a warm smile. "I was beginning to think you'd sleep the day away." Emily yawned and poured herself a cup of coffee. "Sorry, I guess I was more tired than I thought." As they sat down to breakfast, Aunt Martha asked about their trip. Emily hesitated, unsure whether to mention the strange encounter at the airport. But before she could decide, Sophia piped up. "We met the man from my dreams at the airport," she announced proudly. Aunt Martha's fork clattered to her plate. "What man? What dreams?" Emily sighed, realizing she couldn't avoid the topic now. She explained about the encounter with Daniel Reeves and Sophia's insistence that she knew him from her dreams. Aunt Martha listened intently, her brow furrowed. When Emily finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Emily," she said finally, "there's something I need to show you." She disappeared into the other room and returned with an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, she stopped and pointed to a faded photograph. "Is this the man you met at the airport?" Emily leaned in, her heart pounding. The photo showed a younger version of Daniel Reeves, standing next to a woman who looked remarkably like Emily herself. "That's him," she whispered. "But who's the woman with him?" "She looks just like me." Aunt Martha took a deep breath. "Emily, that woman is your mother." The room seemed to spin around Emily. But that's impossible. My parents died when I was a baby. You and Uncle George raised me." "We did raise you," Aunt Martha said softly, "but we're not your biological aunt and uncle. Your parents, they disappeared when you were very young. We never knew what happened to them." Emily felt as if the ground had fallen out from beneath her. She looked at Sophia, who was watching the exchange with wide, curious eyes. "But how? Why didn't you ever tell me?" Aunt Martha reached out and took Emily's hand. "We wanted to protect you, sweetheart. And honestly, we didn't know much ourselves. Your parents' disappearance was a mystery. The police investigated, but they never found anything." Emily's mind was reeling. She thought back to the accident she'd had while pregnant with Sophia, the one that had supposedly caused her memory loss. Had it really been an accident, or was there more to the story? She pulled out the business card Daniel Reeves had given her at the airport. With shaking hands, she dialed the number. A familiar, deep voice answered. "Daniel Reeves speaking." Emily took a deep breath. "Mr. Reeves? This is Emily Foster. We met at the airport yesterday. I think we need to talk." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "Yes, Emily, we have a lot to talk about. Can you meet me at the Boston Public Garden tomorrow at noon?" Emily agreed, her heart pounding. As she hung up the phone, she looked at Sophia, who was happily munching on her pancakes, oblivious to the life-changing revelations swirling around her. What secrets had been buried in Emily's past? How was Daniel Reeves connected to her parents' disappearance? And most puzzling of all, how did Sophia seem to know things she couldn't possibly know? As Emily sat there, surrounded by the warmth of Aunt Martha's kitchen and the innocence of her daughter's laughter, she couldn't shake the feeling that her entire world was about to change. The mystery that had been hidden for so long was finally beginning to unravel, and Emily knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The next day, Emily found herself standing at the edge of the Boston Public Garden, her heart racing with anticipation. The lush green trees and colorful flower beds seemed at odds with the turmoil in her mind. She checked her watch. It was 5 minutes to noon. "Mum, can I feed the ducks?" Sophia asked, tugging at Emily's sleeve. Emily had debated whether to bring Sophia along, but in the end she couldn't bear to leave her daughter behind. Not when Sophia seemed to be at the center of this mystery. "In a little while, sweetie," Emily promised. "We need to meet someone first, remember?" As the clock struck 12, Emily spotted Daniel Reeves approaching. He looked different from their encounter at the airport, more relaxed but with a hint of nervousness in his eyes. "Emily," he greeted her, his gaze shifting to Sophia. "And you must be Sophia. It's nice to meet you again." Sophia beamed at him. "Hi, Mr. Dream Man." Daniel chuckled softly, but Emily could see the tension in his shoulders. "Why don't we sit down?" he suggested, gesturing to a nearby bench. As they settled onto the bench, with Sophia contentedly watching the ducks in the pond, Emily turned to Daniel. "Mr. Reeves, I need answers. How do you know my parents? What happened to them? And how is it possible that my daughter knows you from her dreams?" Daniel took a deep breath. "It's a long and complicated story, Emily. One that I'm not sure I fully understand myself, but I'll tell you what I know." He paused, collecting his thoughts. 28 years ago, I was a young doctor working in the emergency room at Massachusetts General Hospital. One night, a couple was brought in after a terrible car accident. The woman was pregnant, about 7 months along. Emily's breath caught in her throat. "My parents," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes, your father. He didn't make it. But your mother and you were still in the womb. You both survived, against all odds. It was a miracle, really." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. All her life, she'd believed her parents had died when she was a baby. To learn that her father had died before she was even born, that her mother had survived, it was overwhelming. "What happened next?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel's eyes clouded with pain. "Your mother was in a coma for several weeks. When she woke up, she had no memory of the accident or her life before it. And you were born while she was still unconscious. It was touch and go for a while, but you both pulled through." Emily's mind was reeling. "But I don't understand. If my mother survived, why was I raised by my aunt and uncle? And why don't I remember any of this?" Daniel looked down at his hands. "That's where things get complicated. Your mother, when she woke up, she was different. The trauma of the accident, losing your father, it changed her. She was scared, confused. She didn't believe you were her daughter. She thought we were all part of some conspiracy." Emily felt as if the ground was shifting beneath her feet. She glanced at Sophia, who was now feeding breadcrumbs to the ducks, blissfully unaware of the earth-shattering revelations being discussed just feet away. "What are you saying?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Your mother, she ran away from the hospital," Daniel said softly. "She disappeared. We searched for her, but it was like she had vanished into thin air. You were just a newborn with no one to care for you. That's when your aunt and uncle stepped in. They adopted you, gave you a home, a family." Emily's mind was spinning. "But why don't I remember any of this? Why did they tell me my parents had died?" Daniel sighed. "From what I understand, they wanted to protect you. They thought it would be easier for you to believe your parents had died than to know the truth, that your father was gone and your mother had abandoned you." The weight of this revelation crashed down on Emily. She felt as if her entire life had been built on a foundation of lies, but there was still one piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. "But what about Sophia?" she asked, looking at her daughter. "How does she fit into all of this? How does she know you?" Daniel's expression softened as he looked at Sophia. "That's the part I can't explain. I've never met Sophia before that day at the airport. And yet," he trailed off, shaking his head in wonder. "The lullaby," Emily prompted. "The one she says you sing in her dreams. How do you know it?" A sad smile played at the corners of Daniel's mouth. "It was a lullaby your mother used to sing when she was pregnant with you. I would hear her humming it in the hospital. After the accident, when she was in the coma, I used to sing it to you. I thought maybe it would help somehow." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She looked at Sophia, who was now chasing a butterfly. Her laughter carried on the warm summer breeze. How was it possible that her daughter knew a lullaby from before she was born? "Mr. Reeves," Emily said, turning back to him. "Daniel, I appreciate you telling me all this, but I still have so many questions. What happened to my mother after she ran away? Have you seen her since? And why are you coming forward now, after all these years?" Daniel's expression grew serious. "Emily, I've been searching for your mother all these years. I felt responsible somehow, for not being able to help her more, for letting her slip away. And then, a few weeks ago, I saw her." Emily's heart leapt into her throat. "You saw her? Where?" "Right here in Boston," Daniel said. "She was shopping in a department store where I work part-time. I almost didn't recognize her at first, but then I knew it was her. I tried to approach her, but she ran away before I could reach her." Emily's mind was racing. Her mother, alive and in Boston. It seemed too incredible to be true. "Why didn't you tell me this at the airport?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "I wasn't sure how to explain it all. And then when Sophia recognized me, I was shocked. I needed time to process it all, to figure out how to tell you." As they sat there, the sounds of the park fading into the background, Emily felt as if her entire world had been turned upside down. Everything she thought she knew about her past, her family, even herself, had been called into question. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel reached out and gently placed his hand on hers. "We find your mother, Emily, together. She deserves to know about you, about Sophia. And you deserve answers." Emily nodded, a mix of fear and determination welling up inside her. She looked at Sophia, still playing happily by the pond, and made a silent promise. She would uncover the truth, no matter what it took, for herself, for her daughter, and for the mother she had never known. As they sat there planning their next steps, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. The mysteries of her past, the inexplicable connection between Sophia and Daniel, the whereabouts of her long-lost mother, all these threads were starting to come together, weaving a tapestry of secrets and revelations that Emily was only beginning to understand. Little did she know that the biggest surprises were yet to come, and that the truth would be more startling and life-changing than she could ever imagine. The following days passed in a blur for Emily. She found herself caught between her normal life, teaching her high school English classes, helping Sophia with homework, and maintaining her small but cozy apartment, and the whirlwind of emotions and questions stirred up by Daniel's revelations. One evening, as Emily sat at her kitchen table grading papers, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She glanced up at the window, half expecting to see a face peering in, but there was nothing there except the reflection of her own tired eyes. "Mom?" Sophia's voice startled her. "Are you okay? You look scared." Emily forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little tired. How about we take a break and watch a movie?" As they settled on the couch, Sophia snuggled close to her mother. "Mom, can I tell you something?" she asked, her voice small and hesitant. "Of course, honey. You can tell me anything." Sophia took a deep breath. "I had another dream last night, about the singing man. I mean, about Mr. Reeves." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "What happened in the dream, Sophia?" "He was singing the lullaby again, but this time there was a lady with him. She looked kind of like you, Mom, but older, and she was crying." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Could Sophia be dreaming about her grandmother, Emily's long-lost mother? But how was that even possible? "Sophia, this is very important," Emily said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Has Mr. Reeves ever told you about this lady?" Sophia shook her head. "No, I've only seen her in my dreams. But Mom, she seems so sad. I think she misses you." Emily pulled her daughter close, her mind racing. She needed to talk to Daniel again. These dreams couldn't be mere coincidence. The next day, after dropping Sophia off at school, Emily headed to the department store where Daniel worked. As she approached the customer service desk, she saw him assisting an elderly woman with a return. Even in this mundane setting, there was something about his demeanor that spoke of his past as a doctor, patient, attentive, caring. When he finished with the customer, he looked up and saw Emily. His eyes widened in surprise. "Emily, what are you doing here? We need to talk," she said, her voice low and urgent. "It's about Sophia's dreams." Daniel nodded, understanding immediately. "My break is in 10 minutes. Can you wait?" Those 10 minutes felt like an eternity to Emily. She wandered the aisles aimlessly, her fingers trailing over soft fabrics and shiny home goods. How strange it was to be surrounded by such normalcy when her life felt anything but normal. Finally, Daniel appeared, gesturing for her to follow him to a small break room. Once inside, Emily wasted no time. "Sophia had another dream about you," she said, "but this time there was a woman with you, a woman who looked like me." Daniel's face paled. "Your mother," he whispered. Emily nodded. "That's what I thought too. But Daniel, how is this possible? How can Sophia be dreaming about people and events from before she was born?" Daniel ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "I don't know, Emily. I've been a doctor for most of my life, and I've never encountered anything like this. It's as if Sophia has some kind of connection to the past, to your past." "But what does it mean?" Emily pressed. "And more importantly, how do we find my mother?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. Then his eyes lit up. "The lullaby," he said. "It's always been about the lullaby. Your mother used to say it was a family tradition, passed down through generations. So, what if it's not just a lullaby? What if it's a clue?" Emily frowned. "A clue to what?" "To where your mother might be," Daniel explained, his excitement growing. "Think about it. She's been in hiding for years, but she's here in Boston. Why? What brought her back?" Emily's mind was racing. "You think the lullaby might lead us to her?" Daniel nodded. "It's worth a shot. Can you remember the words?" Emily closed her eyes, trying to recall the melody Sophia often hummed. "Something about the moon watching over me and the stars keeping me safe." "Yes, that's part of it," Daniel encouraged. "But there's more. Something about a special place, a place where the family would always be together. As they worked together to reconstruct the lullaby, Emily felt a strange sensation, as if she were unlocking a part of herself she never knew existed. Words and phrases began to surface in her mind, hazy at first, but growing clearer with each passing moment. "The old oak tree," she whispered suddenly, "where the river meets the sea." Daniel's eyes widened. "Yes, that's it! But what does it mean?" Emily shook her head, frustrated. "I don't know, it's just a fragment, a piece of the puzzle." As they continued to dissect the lullaby, trying to extract any possible clues, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a text from her neighbor, Margaret Winters. "Emily, dear, I'm at Sophia's school. There's been an incident. Please come quickly." Emily's heart dropped. She showed the message to Daniel, panic rising in her throat. "Go," he said immediately. "We'll figure this out later. Sophia needs you now." Emily raced to her car, her mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. What had happened to Sophia? Was she hurt? And how did all of this connect to the mysteries of her past? As she sped towards the school, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that everything, the dreams, the lullaby, her mother's disappearance, was somehow interconnected. But how? And more importantly, was Sophia in danger because of it? She arrived at the school to find Margaret waiting for her at the entrance, her usually serene face creased with worry. "Oh, Emily," she said, pulling her into a hug. "Thank goodness you're here." "What happened?" Emily demanded. "Where's Sophia?" Margaret took a deep breath. "She's in the principal's office. She's not hurt, but, well, you'd better come see for yourself." As they walked through the quiet hallways, Margaret explained that Sophia had been found in the art room during recess, surrounded by dozens of drawings. "The same drawing over and over," Margaret said. "A woman's face. A face that looks remarkably like yours, Emily." Emily's steps faltered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Margaret replied softly, "that your daughter seems to have drawn portraits of your mother, a woman she's never met, a woman who disappeared before you were even born." As they reached the principal's office, Emily steeled herself for what she might find. She pushed open the door to see Sophia sitting quietly, her small hands folded in her lap. And there, spread out on the desk and pinned to the walls, were dozens of sketches, all showing the same face. A face that, with a jolt of recognition, Emily realized she knew. It was the face from her own forgotten memories, the face of the woman in the photograph with Daniel, the face of the mother she had never known. And somehow, impossibly, it was the face that her 8-year-old daughter had drawn with uncanny precision. As Sophia looked up at her, her eyes wide and uncertain, Emily knew that the mystery surrounding her family had just deepened immeasurably. And she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, that somewhere in Boston, her mother was out there, perhaps in danger, perhaps holding the key to unlock all these secrets. With a deep breath, Emily knelt beside her daughter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Little did she know that the revelations to come would shake the very foundations of everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, and the nature of reality itself. Emily sat in her living room, surrounded by Sophia's drawings. The face of her mother stared back at her from dozens of sheets of paper, each sketch a haunting reminder of the mystery that had consumed their lives. Sophia was asleep in her room, exhausted from the day's events and the barrage of questions from concerned school officials. A soft knock at the door startled Emily from her thoughts. She opened it to find Daniel standing there, his face etched with concern. "I came as soon as I could," he said, stepping inside. "How's Sophia?" Emily sighed, running a hand through her hair. "She's sleeping now. She couldn't really explain the drawings. She just said she felt like she had to draw them." Daniel's eyes scanned the room, taking in the multitude of sketches. "It's remarkable," he murmured. "The detail, the consistency. Emily, this goes beyond coincidence or imagination." "But what does it mean?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How can Sophia know what my mother looks like? And why now? Why is all of this happening now?" Daniel sat down on the couch, his brow furrowed in thought. "I have a theory," he said slowly, "but it's going to sound, well, a bit out there." Emily let out a humorless laugh. "Daniel, my 8-year-old daughter is drawing perfect portraits of the mother I never knew. I think we left out there behind a long time ago." He nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Fair enough. Emily, what do you know about genetic memory?" "Genetic memory?" Emily repeated, confused. "You mean like how animals have instincts passed down through generations?" Something like that, Daniel said. But in humans, it's more controversial. Some scientists believe that memories, or at least impressions of experiences, can be passed down through our DNA. Emily's mind reeled at the implication. Are you saying that Sophia might be remembering things from my past or even my mother's past? Daniel held up his hands. I know it sounds incredible, and it's not a widely accepted theory, but given what we're seeing with Sophia, the dreams, the lullaby, these drawings, it's the only explanation that makes any sense to me. Emily sank onto the couch next to him, her head spinning. But even if that's true, why is it manifesting now? Why didn't I ever experience anything like this? That's the part I'm not sure about, Daniel admitted. But I have a hunch it might have something to do with your accident. Emily's hand unconsciously went to her forehead, where a faint scar was hidden beneath her hairline. The car crash when I was pregnant with Sophia. Daniel nodded. Head injuries can do strange things to the brain, Emily. It's possible that the accident somehow unlocked something in you, something that you then passed on to Sophia. As wild as the theory sounded, Emily couldn't deny that it made a certain kind of sense. It explained Sophia's impossible knowledge, her dreams, her connection to a past she'd never experienced. So, what do we do now? Emily asked, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of this new possibility. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes intense. We need to find your mother, Emily. I think she's the key to all of this, and I think I might know where to start looking. Emily's heart quickened. Where? The lullaby, Daniel said. The part about the old oak tree where the river meets the sea. It's not just a pretty phrase, I think it's a real place. Emily frowned. But where? There must be thousands of places where rivers meet the sea. True, Daniel acknowledged. But how many of them have an old oak tree? And how many are connected to your family history? Emily's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You've found something, haven't you? Daniel nodded, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. I did some research. There's a small coastal town about an hour north of Boston. It's called Oak Harbor. And guess what? There's an ancient oak tree right at the point where the local river empties into the Atlantic. And you think my mother might be there? Emily asked, hardly daring to hope. It's worth checking out, Daniel said. At the very least, it might give us some clues about your family history. Emily glanced towards Sophia's room, torn between the need to solve this mystery and her responsibility as a mother. I can't just pack up and leave. Sophia has school and I have work. It's Friday night, Daniel pointed out gently. We could go tomorrow, make it a day trip. I'm sure Margaret would be happy to watch Sophia. Emily hesitated for a moment, then nodded decisively. Okay, let's do it. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Emily kissed a sleepy Sophia goodbye, promising to be back by dinner, and thanking Margaret profusely for agreeing to babysit on such short notice. As she climbed into Daniel's car, Emily felt a mix of anticipation and fear. What would they find in Oak Harbor? And was she really ready to face the truth about her past? The drive was beautiful, the road winding along the coast with views of the sparkling Atlantic. But Emily hardly noticed the scenery, her mind consumed with questions and possibilities. Tell me more about my mother, she said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence that had fallen between them. What was she like? Before the accident, I mean. Daniel's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. She was vibrant, he said after a moment, full of life and laughter. She used to say that every day was an adventure waiting to happen. Emily felt a pang of loss for the mother she'd never known. And my father? A shadow passed over Daniel's face. He was a good man, quieter than your mother, but they balanced each other perfectly. He would have done anything for her, for both of you. As they talked, Emily began to build a picture of the parents she'd lost. One to death, one to the fog of trauma and time. It made the ache of their absence even more acute, but also filled her with a determination to uncover the truth. Finally, they arrived in Oak Harbor. It was a picturesque New England town, with clapboard houses and a quaint main street lined with shops. But Emily's attention was immediately drawn to the massive oak tree visible at the end of the road, its sprawling branches silhouetted against the sea. They parked the car and walked towards the tree. As they got closer, Emily could see that its trunk was gnarled and ancient, bearing the marks of countless years of standing sentinel over the meeting of river and sea. It's beautiful, Emily murmured, reaching out to touch the rough bark. But Daniel wasn't looking at the tree. His gaze was fixed on something in the distance. Emily, he said, his voice tight with emotion. Look! Emily turned, following his gaze, and there, walking slowly along the beach, was a woman A woman whose face Emily had seen in Sophia's drawings, in the old photograph, and in the deepest recesses of her own forgotten memories. "Mom?" Emily whispered, her voice catching in her throat. As if hearing her across the distance, the woman turned. For a moment time seemed to stand still as their eyes met. Then, with a cry that was half sob and half laughter, the woman began to run towards them. Emily's feet moved of their own accord, carrying her across the sand. And then, after 28 years of separation, Emily found herself in her mother's arms. "My baby," her mother sobbed, holding her tight. "My Emily, I've missed you so much." As they clung to each other, the waves lapping at their feet and the old oak tree standing witness, Emily felt a lifetime of questions bubbling up inside her. But for now she just held on, savoring the moment she'd dreamed of for so long. Little did she know that this reunion, miraculous as it was just the beginning. The real revelations about her past, about Sophia's mysterious abilities, and about the true nature of the bond between them all, were yet to come. The sun was setting over Oak Harbor, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink. Emily sat on the beach, her mother on one side and Daniel on the other. The initial shock and emotion of their reunion had given way to a quieter, more contemplative mood as they began to unravel the mysteries of the past 28 years. "I can't believe you've been here all this time," Emily said softly, still struggling to process the reality of her mother's presence. Her mother, Sarah, squeezed her hand gently. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I never meant to stay away for so long. After the accident, everything was so confusing. I couldn't remember who I was, let alone that I had a daughter." "But why didn't you come back when your memory returned?" Emily asked, unable to keep a note of hurt from her voice. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "By the time I started remembering, years had passed. I was afraid that you'd be better off without me, that I'd only disrupt your life if I suddenly reappeared." Daniel leaned forward, his expression gentle but firm. "Sarah, I need to ask you something. It's about Emily's daughter, Sophia." Sarah's eyes widened. "I have a granddaughter?" Emily nodded, a small smile playing on her lips despite the seriousness of the moment. "She's 8 years old, and she's special." As Emily and Daniel explained about Sophia's dreams, the lullaby and the drawings, Sarah's face went through a range of emotions: surprise, wonder, and finally, a deep, knowing sadness. "Oh, my darling," she whispered. "It's happening again." Emily and Daniel exchanged confused glances. "What do you mean, again?" Emily asked. Sarah took a deep breath, her gaze drifting out to the sea. "It's a family secret, passed down through the generations. Some might call it a gift, others a curse. But in our family, there have always been those with a special connection to the past. Genetic memory," Daniel murmured. Sarah nodded. "That's what the scientists call it now. But in our family, it's always been more than that. It's as if the experiences of our ancestors live on in us, waiting to be awakened." Emily's mind was reeling. "So, Sophia's dreams, her ability to draw you, she's accessing memories," Sarah confirmed. "Not just her own or even yours, Emily, but the memories of all those who came before us." "But why now?" Emily pressed. "Why is it manifesting in Sophia when I never experienced anything like this?" Sarah turned to her daughter, her eyes full of regret. "Because of me. Because I wasn't there to guide you, to help you understand and control it. The ability often skips a generation if it's not nurtured." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "Control it? What do you mean?" "The gift can be overwhelming," Sarah explained. "Without proper guidance, it can lead to confusion, even madness. That's what happened to me after the accident. The trauma unlocked memories and experiences I wasn't prepared for. I got lost in them, unable to distinguish between past and present." Daniel leaned forward, his medical training evident in his focused expression. "Is that why you ran away from the hospital?" Sarah nodded, shame evident in her features. "I was terrified. I was seeing and experiencing things I couldn't explain. I thought I was going crazy, so I ran." Emily felt a surge of empathy for her mother, understanding for the first time the true depth of what she had gone through. "And you came here to Oak Harbor?" "Eventually," Sarah said. "I wandered for years, trying to make sense of the visions and memories. It was only when I remembered the lullaby, the one my grandmother used to sing to me, that I found my way here. This place, it's been in our family for generations. It's a place of power, of connection." As the implications of her mother's words sank in, Emily felt a mix of awe and fear. So, Sophia, she needs guidance. To understand and control this ability? Sarah nodded solemnly. Yes, and more than that, she needs protection. Protection? Emily and Daniel asked in unison. Sarah's expression grew grave. There are those who would exploit this ability, who would see it as a tool to be used for their own gain. Your father, he died trying to protect our family from such people. The revelation hit Emily like a physical blow. What? I thought he died in the car accident. Sarah shook her head, tears streaming down her face. The accident was no accident. Emily, it was an attempt to kidnap us, to force us to use our abilities for terrible things. Your father sacrificed himself to save us. As the full weight of the truth settled over them, Emily felt as if her world had been turned upside down once again. But amidst the shock and sorrow, a fierce determination took root. We need to go back, she said, standing up suddenly. We need to protect Sophia. Daniel rose as well, placing a supportive hand on Emily's shoulder. We'll face this together, he said firmly. Sarah looked up at them, hope and fear warring in her eyes. Are you sure you want me to come back? After everything I've done? Emily reached down and took her mother's hand, helping her to her feet. Mom, we've lost too much time already. Sophia needs you. I need you. Please, come home. As they made their way back to Daniel's car, the old oak tree seemed to whisper in the evening breeze, as if acknowledging the completion of a long-awaited reunion. The drive back to Boston was filled with a mix of emotions: joy at their reunion, anxiety about the challenges ahead, and a deep sense of purpose. They formulated a plan. Sarah would move in with Emily and Sophia, helping to guide the young girl in understanding and controlling her abilities. Daniel, with his medical background, would help monitor Sophia's health and well-being. As they pulled up in front of Emily's apartment building, they saw Margaret and Sophia waiting on the steps. Sophia's eyes widened as she saw the woman step out of the car with her mother. "It's you!" Sophia exclaimed, running towards Sarah. "The lady from my dreams!" Sarah knelt down, opening her arms to embrace her granddaughter for the first time. As they hugged, a sense of completion, of rightness settled over the group. Emily watched the scene, tears of joy streaming down her face. She felt Daniel's arm wrap around her shoulders, offering silent support and comfort. "Are you ready for this?" he asked softly. Emily took a deep breath, looking at her mother and daughter embracing, at Margaret's beaming face, and at Daniel's steady presence beside her. She thought about the challenges ahead, helping Sophia understand her gift, protecting her from those who might exploit it, and rebuilding her relationship with her mother. But she also thought about the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The mysteries solved, the family reunited, and the promise of a future filled with love, understanding, and the incredible legacy of their family's unique gift. "Yes," Emily said, her voice filled with determination and hope. "I'm ready. We're all ready." As they walked towards the apartment, Emily felt as if a new chapter was beginning, not just for her, but for all of them. The road ahead might be challenging, but they would face it together, bound by love, united by their shared history, and strengthened by the knowledge that some bonds transcend time and memory. The mystery that had begun with a chance encounter in an airport had led them on an incredible journey of discovery. And while many questions had been answered, Emily knew that in many ways their adventure was just beginning. As they stepped into the apartment, ready to start their new life together, Emily couldn't help but smile. Whatever the future held, she knew that they would face it as a family, past, present and future, intertwined in a tapestry of love, memory, and the enduring power of connection.